All right, welcome to the June 27th, 2022 regular business meeting of Board of School Trustees, held in public with a start time of 6:05 this evening. If you may all rise, we'll ask Mr. Hoffman to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, due to some summer activities and lack of attendance and students being able to be here this evening, I'd like to make a motion that we're just going to postpone the accommodations. I believe they're all, every one, 2.1, 2.2, 3, and 4, correct?
And 5.
Sorry, we scroll down. And 2.5. Michael Early is not here. No, it's not here.
So moved a motion to table the accommodation words 2.1 through 2.5. Second.
Motion by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Hoffman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0, so we'll pick that up sometime in the future. 4-0, yes, 4-0. Thank you, Tom. Patrons' comments. We do not have any this evening. We'll move to item 4, consent agenda. Dr. Terrell? You know, I did see you here before the meeting. I'd like to, we have some rules. Can I have you sign in, and then we'll ask you to step to the, that's okay. Do you need a pen? This is for name, address, and I'm be speaking on, and then even though you are the only one here, I'll read through the policy for comment. Thank you. So just the guidelines to speak at the meeting. The patrons register comments. The board will hear patrons wish to comment on educational issues at the regular business meeting of the Board of School Trustees held in public. Sign the sign-up sheet provided at the back room prior to the start of the meeting, but make an exception for that this evening. When your name's called, please come to the podium, state your name and address and purpose for speaking. The portion of the meeting during which the participating public is invited shall be 20 minutes. Speakers are refrained to speaking on personnel issues and student issues. Mr. Angel will keep a time for us, 3 minutes per speaker. So if you'd like to begin, go ahead.
Okay. Esther Hill, 907 Seneca Drive in Crown Point. And I am just here because I'm inquiring. I don't know if it will be addressed at this meeting or maybe hopefully in July. Next month, but I know that Biden's Department of Food and Nutrition Services announced that it will strip money specifically for lunches from schools who don't allow trans students to use the bathroom of their desired gender. Title IX says the school districts will have to allow transgender boys and girls, boys into girls' bathrooms, locker rooms, showers, and sleeping quarters in order to keep federal funds for lunches, breakfasts, and snacks. So I am just, I know with media, there's a bunch of false things that go on. I saw this, it was concerned with Crown Point Public Schools. I am against this, and I was just wondering how Crown Point Public Schools is going to address this. Is this going to be changing the 2022-2023 school year? And if that can be addressed, I would appreciate it. If not this meeting, next meeting. Yes. I recognize two genders, boys and girls. And I'm very concerned for my daughter, who is a first grader next year. I'm very concerned for all the children. I think this is just a horrible move. So, and I hope your board, all you members agree with me. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so item 4, consent agenda. Dr. Terrell.
For your consideration this evening, we have 4.1. Thank you, Senator. And that is both 4.2 and 4.3. 4.4 is our appointments by the board for the accompanying bond amounts. This is an annual thing that we do each and every year. 4.5, the personnel agenda, 4.6, meal prices, and then 4.7, which is our voucher registered checks as listed.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. You've heard the consent agenda as presented. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Smith. Any questions or comments for Dr. Terrell? Not? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I will abstain due to a personal conflict on the personnel agenda this evening.
Opposed? That motion does carry 3-0, and Mr. Angel will abstain due to a conflict on the personnel agenda this evening. Moving forward, item 5, action items. We have 5.1, disposition of obsolete curriculum materials and property. Mr. Hardman?
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, again pursuant to the adoption of a new English language arts curriculum and resources, we are disposing of language arts, previous language arts curriculum items. So that is before you this evening, as well as a piano that has been in storage for a number of years at MacArthur that I think surfaced and needs to be moved because of construction that's going on. There are pictures there, and seeking opportunity to use the protocols that might be able to maybe have someone take care of or maybe donate the piano. So we're seeking your approval tonight to dispose of these resources as well as the piano.
Thank you, Mr. Hardman. You've heard the, recommendation to approve the disposal of the elementary curriculum materials listed in property in the most economical manner and the best meets the requirements of Indiana Code 5-22-22, Indiana Code 20-26-5-4, Administrative Guidelines 7310, which may include sale, donation, or deeming of it worthless and disposing of it as normal refuse. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Hoffman. Any questions or comments from Mr. Hardman? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And 5.2 is the Crown Point High School resource adoption. Mr. Hartman again.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Bring to you this evening the resources at Crown Point High School that are recommending being adopted. These are new materials. If you look at the spreadsheet, I believe that also notes the rationale behind each of the resources that are being adopted. Seeking your approval to adopt those this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hartman. You heard the recommendation to approve the Crown Point High School resource adoption. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hoffman and second by Mr. Smith. Any questions or comments on the resource adoption?
Mr. Hardman, just for the information of the public, what is the procedure for adoption of textbooks?
The procedure for adoption of the textbooks at the high school level is headed up by the department chair, and then there's involvement by members of the department for the adoption. There's a review process that they go through, looking at the resources, comparing them, and then coming up with a determination as to which resource that is necessary. In some of the cases, because they're dual credit courses or dual credit resources, we're really waiting for the university to tell us which of the resources that we need to provide for our students, so that the students can be able to access the curriculum as well as do well to get the dual credit, the college credit classes.
To piggyback off that question, I know there are a lot of questions with textbooks right now, and I think it's a good time to discuss this. How frequently do we review this list of items? Is it annually with the department chairs?
Yeah, annually there are opportunities for resources to come on. In the list that you have before you today, you can see that in the language arts department, there's some novels that have been adopted for the instruction, and they're pretty classic novels that you can see there. When you think, and when you look at the language arts for dual credit speech, again, you can see the rationale for that is the university mandate. If you go down into the industrial tech course, these are new, they're not new courses. It's a restructuring of the construction trades, and therefore we're bringing in the CTE resources for that are new resources. And really it's to help with the transition to the new courses that we are implementing at that point in time. There is a cycle that we go through. So for instance, like in elementary school, we've gone through a cycle over the last period of years where we've picked up and adopted news. We've done a resource review. The middle school too, I think we've been looking at, we did mathematics, I think it was the last one. Actually, no, it was science that we did. So there's a cycle that we go through as we review those resources. The high school pretty much looks at their resources that are built into the learning management system, and then as things change, they do start a review and identify what is necessary to be able to curate for the courses that they have.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And back to Mr. Harmon for the textbook rental and supply fees for 22-23 Crown Point High School and the special education.
Yeah, thank you. The two sheets that I've provided to you are the textbook rental fees recommended for Crown Point High School and the exceptional education. The Crown Point High School is by course, so depending on what courses the students take, then those fees are compiled, and that becomes the Crown Point High School TBR for the year. The exceptional education, they align to the by grade level what the grade level, elementary grade level TBR is. So, for instance, I think it was last month you approved the TBR for grades K through 5. So if grade 1 was $190, then you'll see that the exceptional education fee also at this for grade 1 for students would be the same amount. So they do maintain a coordination of that. It's hard to put together for high school what a fee would be for it, because it depends on the courses that the students take. I mean, if you're looking at core courses, you might see lower TBRs overall. If you're getting into some of the courses that, as you could see on the sheet, there's some pretty hefty fees that go with some of the courses, either through maybe the CTE area, courses that are dual credit, but and those are consumable items. The students own those books in most cases, and so you can see some pretty large fees that students take. So this evening, seeking your recommendation of the fees for exceptional education in Crown Point High School.
Thank you for the recommendation to approve the Crown Point High School and exceptional education textbook and rental supply fees for 22-23. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Mr. Angel and second by Mr. Hoffman. Any questions or comments from Mr. Hardman?
Mr. Harmon, I didn't see a comparison on the Chromebook rental fees. Was there much change on them?
Yeah, we're transitioning to touchscreen devices. So this year, you'll see that the cost of the Chromebook is $70.68 for the rental over 4 years. Previously, if we started back a few years when we did not do all touchscreens, you'll see somewhere around $56. So that's the increase that you'll see as we're making a transition to all touchscreens in the district. So we're not doing it every full scale. We are doing it through the cycle that we have identified and moving everything to touchscreens.
Thank you.
Question that may be more directed to Artie, but are we having difficulty hiring exceptional education instructors? The reason I asked was that there was I don't know how many people read it, but the Indiana School Boards Association sends out an email every morning of articles from around the state, and they had one, I believe it was this morning, talking about transitioning licensed teachers into exceptional ed, and have programs set up for them to learn that transition over the course of a year, so.
Yeah, I would say that that comment that it has been more difficult to find exceptional education instructors, but we've been able to receive some high-quality applicants and get them hired. I think our challenge in that particular area would be in some very specific, specialized area for instructional support. Some of our therapists and whatnot. But to this point, the market is thinner, but we've been able to get some good people on board.
Any other comments or questions? Or maybe anybody else, or back to Mr. Harmon? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 4-0. And item 6, we have discussion report items. At 6.1, policy revisions and additions. The first reading, Mr. Akiwa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, board members. Just a item here involving our updates of policies. This is a very specific update that we're doing outside of a batch update, if you will. But as you know, we work now with ISBA for our policy updates, and we found it necessary to address this one sooner rather than later. That's policy 9150, which speaks to school visitors. In particular, you'll notice the draft there introduces a new statement leading us to have our administrative guidelines direct us on how we are going to allow those that are going to be present in our building to provide services to students, largely with approval by the principal for appropriateness for those folks to be present. So we would just like you to go ahead and see this tonight for first reading potentially, and for information, and with the option to approve if necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Akiwa, for the recommendation of a first reading and potential approval of policy number 9150.
I don't know that it requires any action, does it?
No, we don't, we'll bring it back.
We can probably move to waive the reading of it, but,
Yeah.
which I will do.
Second. The waiving of the reading.
All those in favor of waiving the reading this evening?
Aye.
Saying aye. Aye. And opposed, most carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Akiwa. And item 7, information items. We have superintendent discussion groups. Do we have anything from anywhere? Cedar Lake, Winfield, Crown Point?
No, I missed last month's meeting.
Crown Point RDC had one of its quicker meetings last month. I think it was less than 10 minutes, so not much going on there other than, continue to accept and approve facade grants and paving contracts for improvement of city streets. Winfield, still trying to find money with which to do something, so.
But, let's move forward to Director of Elementary Education. Ms. Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. I'd like to take this opportunity to really share my appreciation and thanks for our administrators at the elementary level for their dedication throughout the school year that then continues into summer school, as well as preparing for the upcoming school year. Specifically, I would like to thank and recognize Cindy Wise for her service as both an elementary classroom teacher and building principal at Lake Street. Her career has really been one that has been filled with pride in serving her students, her teachers, and families, and I know that she is genuinely looking forward to her retirement and sharing time with her family, as well as specifically her grandchildren. I know will keep her busy with activities, but just want to thank her for her contributions to our elementary team as well as to our community.
Thank you. Director of Secondary Education, Mr. Gene Fermi?
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. Just like Mrs. Ramirez, I'd like to thank all our secondary staff for all the hard work they've been doing in summer school. Our middle school teachers, administrators, and staff will be wrapping up this week with over 200 students. At the high school, close to 1,000 students in some type of online course or in person. You might see them walking around town occasionally in their PE uniforms. But there's quite a few kids getting some education this summer, and we really appreciate all their efforts in doing that well. And then also, since it's the first time we've met since the graduation, I'd like to thank Mr. Marsnick and the high school administration for just a great job at the ceremony. In particular, Amy Helmuth, assistant principal, who orchestrates that whole thing, sets it all up, and makes sure it went off flawlessly. I've been at a lot of them, and that one was really well done. and it was a great night, and I think our parents and families enjoyed it, and the kids did, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Giovanni. Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Harmon.
Thank you, President. Coming up this Friday, the final results of ILR will be posted, as well as the student reports on our student information system, so they'll be accessible for our parents. These are the final results. We have the preliminary that came out in May. We opened a window up for parents to request rescores, and the final results are going to be posted July 1. In addition to that, professional development. We're ending summer school, and we time things going through. We will have teachers that are involved in professional development at all levels. We have inclusion, we have curriculum, resource training that's coming up, so that helps us to gear up. I know we have the opportunity to start meeting our new teachers shortly, within the next 4 weeks, which will be good. And thank you, Ari, for the work that you've done to coordinate all of that. In addition, we continue to build our capacity to support our students academically and behaviorally and social-emotionally. We're continue looking at tools and interventions to be able to support our students throughout the school year.
Thank you, Mr. Harmon. And Chief Human Resource Officer, Mr. Akiwa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to continue with the thanking and appreciation for all of our front office staff members, administrators, department heads. We've had quite a fast and furious hiring season. We've conducted, I probably can't even count the interviews, but quite a few. And I think everybody's just done an outstanding job screening all of the applicants that we've received for various positions here in the last 2 months. We've done a wonderful job, and I just appreciate all the teamwork, attention to detail, and diligence in bringing on board high-quality individuals into the Crown Point School Corporation. So thank you to all of our leaders and support staff out there that work so hard on the hiring process this hiring season. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Reese from the Business Office.
We have nothing this evening.
The Director of Communications, Ms. Allen.
Thank you. Next to each of your computers is the next issue of the We Are CP newsletter. It will be in mailboxes the week of July 4th, but that's an advanced copy. I'm also excited to announce that in the next couple of months, we will be switching our mass messaging system. We currently use School Messenger. It's more than a bit outdated. It causes a lot of our messages to land in spam boxes instead of inboxes. So we are switching to a platform called Parent Square. It's a kind of new up-and-coming platform. A lot of other districts are making the switch to them as well. And I'm looking forward to better communication with our families as a result.
That sounds exciting. Thank you. I know I've been a victim of a spam email a couple times this year.
We are equal opportunity.
And, Dr. Terrell, Superintendent of Schools.
I would like to begin by echoing the remarks of Mr. Ramirez regarding Cindy Wise and her retirement. She's been here a long time, appreciate her leadership in the building. And at the same time, we're excited to see what comes out of the interview process here we'll be going through over the next couple of weeks, and looking forward to the future as well. Want to thank all of our people who are in our buildings over the summer, not just our administrators, but also maintenance, the custodians. With summer school going on, every one of our buildings has summer school sessions going on. And with 6 of our campuses having major projects going on right now, it's created some challenges, and they're still doing a great job with it. Also recognizing our custodian and maintenance crews with all of the normal summer projects that are going on. They continue to happen even in the midst of all this, so we appreciate their efforts. Last thing this evening, I'd just like to remind you, board members and also our community members, of the State of the School Address, which will be July 13th. Breakfast will start being served at 7:30 with the program beginning at 8 and being concluded by 9 a.m. Look forward to the opportunity to share some highlights of what happened this past year, and then also some of the vision for the next school year as we come into that. And that will be held at Crown Point High School.
Thank you, Dr. Terrell. And, other business of the Board of School Trustees? Anybody have anything this evening like to comment or discuss?
We, progress on the agreement with the city regarding the construction there for the new concession stand at Wheeler?
So we're in the process right now of reviewing the plans that they had created for that building and working with the architect who created those plans, and then looking at what that process is going to be as we get that built. We're in a good place with it. It's just one of those things that's gonna take a little bit of time before we start seeing the dirt move there. We have an end date in mind, though. I think is it October of 23?
Yeah, October, November of '23.
So that's the date we're working towards.
To be completed at that point?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Terrell, have you had an opportunity to meet with Mayor Land yet?
I have not.
Yeah.
I was out of town the last week and a few days before that, so.
He's a bit busy also, right?
Yeah, he's running. Have met him before. He was in this position though, and have had a relationship with him already, so look forward to continuing to strengthen that and grow that.
But any other business or thoughts? I'd like to just take a minute. I told Mr. Gianfermi and Akiwa when I walked in, I didn't mean to like drop something on them this evening, but I wanted to bring it up now. Just we had a lot of emails to the board in regards to school safety after the incident took place in Texas and some other, violence around the country. And I responded. I probably didn't give the detailed response that maybe those, that mailed us were looking for. But could we just take a minute and, from way above, just give us a couple things over the last, I mean, this goes back, I know, many years, but, looking at yourself, Mr. Gianfermi and Akiwa, I know you guys attended several conferences and some of the things that we do to try to, keep our schools safe. Could you just take a minute to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with school safety, it's all about preparation and communication. And we started back in 2019, pre-COVID. We really changed our safety protocols, really from top to bottom, and built our safety plan anew, and went out and trained all our teachers and staff in person that year, over 80 trainings in person to every building, and then COVID hit. So we're constantly trying to update those protocols that we've put in, some standard response protocols. Part of the communication piece, not only with, this is the time of year we do online tutorials, but again, have plans for the beginning of this school year to get back out into the buildings to make sure that staff and teachers and students all know what is expected in case of emergencies. But we also meet with our first responders, which is huge. We're part of a group that meets at Lake County Schools, and we're one of the few schools that meets monthly with police and fire from Winfield, Cedar Lake, Crown Point, and the county. And we do that monthly, whether we have a topic to discuss or not. Like I know in July, we're gonna be talking about how we're gonna move cars around come the beginning of school with construction and the fair. So those are things that really help the safety continue to build here in our district. And I'm gonna let Mr. Kiwa talk a little bit too, but one of the things I wanna make clear though, is a lot of the things we put in for safety, like access points being buzzed in, cameras, radios, all those things are kind of in response to emergencies. But part of what we want to do as well is be proactive on that. And some of the things that Mr. Hardman mentioned with multi-tiers of support for our students. We've added social workers. We have MOUs, memos of understanding with our mental health providers and Crown Counseling and Pillars of Wellness. And these are for kids that, by working with them and making our teachers more aware of, hey, these are students or families that might need some additional support that's beyond just going to see the counselor. So if we can be proactive and make sure that we're keeping kids safe and healthy, that's just as important as some of the other things that we're talking about as far as physically locking doors and things like that. So I want to make sure that we're trying to attack it from both ends.
And something that you mentioned there that has come up, I mean, so many things have been brought forward to us through your training, but one is, for example, a few years ago, I believe that there was the conversation of, you know, flipping a desk and sitting under it and just sitting there versus, okay, no, if there's an opportunity to escape, we're gonna take it. And it's all difficult conversations, but they need to be had. And I'm just kind of bringing this up, that those things have come up to us. You said, no, if there's an opportunity in a serious situation, we're gonna, you know,
Correct.
take different actions that maybe we would have 15 years ago.
100%. You know, we've been now probably at least 5+ years into new philosophy on how you react to those situations when there might be an unwanted individual in your school building. So we feel really good about that, but we are continually staying on that. Not only do our staff members do online training, but we do in-person as well. This particular year, we've added trainers in-house, and some of our trainers are actually our law enforcement officials, and so we're working together with them as we train our staff members. So in addition to all the planning that goes on and communication with all the stakeholders regarding safety, you know, we do continue to look at some infrastructure, software, surveillance, you know, down to, you know, locks on doors and how do doors work, and our Sally ports, which are in the front of every building. So we're constantly looking at those as well to make sure that our physical spaces are as well equipped as they can be to keep everyone safe.
And I'd add another note that I believe with Mr. Colson, maybe it was happening before that, but I think I've heard that it's not to do a gotcha moment, but a little bit of walk around buildings, pulling on doors, making sure they're secured, and, you know, and bringing that to the principal's attention, like, hey, this is not, you know, we do this for a reason. And I mean, that's just, you guys have brought these things to us in the past, and I think that.
Yeah, to that point, Mr. Warney, Mr. Colson has completed a threat assessment on every building in our district. Threat assessment that's required for some of the grant funding that we receive for safety, so he does that annually.
I think it's also crucial, though, and Dave Colson is here in our audience this evening, our supervisor of school security. His relationship with the first responders here in our community and beyond is so beneficial for us when we've had threats that have come up. Dave has worked very closely with our local law enforcement, and they're on that like immediately, and many times before the message even makes it around to many of those who are seeing that, it's already been addressed and is in the process of being handled and dealt with very quickly and promptly, and we appreciate that, as well as those that we work with being willing to take those threats serious and get on them right away. I think the other thing that I would mention too, we continue to put a real emphasis on having school safety specialists in all of our buildings, and continuing to, as we bring on new administrators, get them trained to be a school safety specialist. As we remodel buildings, build new buildings, we make sure that we're using the best safety protocols and practices that we know now, and including those in those buildings as well. So there's a lot of things that we don't reveal just simply because you have to keep that tactical advantage, if you will. But that's always at the first thought in all of our minds as we do these remodeling and additional projects as we bring those forward.
A couple comments. So one, Artie, I hope that school board members aren't considered unwanted individuals in the buildings.
Not at all. Not at all.
I think the biggest take I had from Uvalde was to make certain and give reassurance to the community that we have an undisputed chain of command. I think that appears to have been the biggest failure there in trying to respond, that either nobody was in charge or nobody wanted to be in charge, and somebody has to react and react quickly. So I don't think we have an issue with that in our district.
Good. Brian, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just to add to this discussion, I think something that has been effective, and we need to make sure it continues, is the reporting of what people hear, see, social media. I know we've been effective in following up with those reports, and it has helped. So, you know, there's always seems to be a warning sign when something occurs when it comes to school safety. And if people continue to report and we can get to it before it occurs, that's the best way. And I know there's processes in our administration to handle that reporting as well.
I don't want to be left out.
With Mr. Gianfermi's experience from the school perspective of things and going through all the training required by schools and Mr. Colson's outside law enforcement background experience, which I think you'll find unmatched in a school corporation as far as every level of it's covered, and mixing that together puts us in a good spot. It's never ever gonna prevent anything, but I like knowing that this community is obviously sending emails, worried about school safety, that we're doing everything we can to try to prevent. Obviously, you can't stop everything, but I think we're in a great spot to make sure we're prepared, and we're also in a spot to try to stop things before they even happen. And I think that was evident a couple times this school year, when rumors had spread of what was going on at our middle school the one time, and I forgot the other one, whether it was the high school or the other middle school. And it was addressed and, you know, kind of vanished and extinguished pretty quickly based on the way it was handled internally. Once again, not giving out secrets of the trade, so to speak, on how to come to a know-how that it wasn't a viable threat, or if it is a viable threat, and what the next steps are. So I'd like to thank all those involved for making that comfortable from the board's perspective, knowing that it's being handled and nothing's not being followed up on if it's brought to our attention.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe that's good enough. It's not that we have an audience here this evening looking for answers to this, but now that we do have the benefit of streaming, and you know, when an email comes through, and not that we've dropped a lot of information here in the last few minutes, but to be able to respond to somebody and say this was addressed at, you know, minute mark of whatever board meeting, I think it gives them a little bit of an opportunity to see us in discussion and throwing around some of the things that have happened over the last few years through training. And really, as you guys know, when those emails come in, we as a board, we can respond confidently. It's not a, you know, you're not nervous to respond to somebody to say that these dots, you know, I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. Thank you for the discussion. I think that's.
What we've done with our entranceways has been nothing but spectacular in the last, I don't know, would that start 5 years ago? Somewhere around there, I wanna say. I mean, to get into the building, I mean, when you gotta be double buzzed in, and once again, I've been on the board long enough and I know the people at Jerry Ross, and yet every time I gotta be double buzzed in, which I'll never ever complain about, no matter how long I live in this community. That's a good thing, that they just wanna verify who it is coming into their building, so no matter what time of day, that's good to know that that's the protocol and it's being followed, so.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Any other business, business board discussion, comments, anything going on?
Was anybody aware of our speakers this evening, that something had been done formally through the state about restrooms? I was just curious, because I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's federal.
Oh, okay.
So typically that will take some time to
okay.
shake down and see what the true impacts of that are going to be. It is a continual issue that schools are facing, not just here in Crown Point, but across our state and our country as well. And it's just one we just have to continue to watch and keep our eye on.
Okay.
Well, I think the other issue associated with that is the potential lack of funding for underwriting of student breakfasts on lunches.
Right, and so as you know, over the last couple of years, throughout the shutdown of schools, one of the things that they did was offer free meals for everyone. There's some talk that is something that might gain some traction and become a reality that's just offered all the time. Again, because lunches are something that comes from the federal level, we'll have to wait and see where that all lands. Right now, the plan is that it'll go back to the way it was before, where if you qualify for free or reduced lunch, you'll have discounted or free food. If not, as was on the agenda this evening, our meal prices are there and they have not changed, going to pre-COVID times as well.
Thank you. Let's move, we could circle back with any business if anything comes to mind, but let's move forward with board statements of appreciation, recognition. Mr. Smith, do you have anything this evening?
I don't.
Mr. Hoffman?
I want to acknowledge the football folks for putting on a wonderful golf outing a week ago, Monday. Very well done, and I don't know what kind of results they had, but I'm sure it was very successful.
Were you able to play?
Played with Mr. Angel.
Oh, we tore it up. I know. I just.
And lost money to Mr. Reese.
Yes.
We'll leave that one there.
Yes, we will.
Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Angel?
I don't have anything to see.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I do. I would just like to say thanks to those behind the scenes, and I say this a lot, but it's true, on how much actually gets accomplished that people in the community and the public aren't aware. Whether it's the hiring aspect, the buildings and grounds aspect, security aspect, the middle administration level, which I'm just using middle just to make sure I include everybody, on what they're doing behind the scenes to make sure that the school year is ready to go and curriculums are in place and everything. It's really incredible that we function at such a high level, knowing that, I mean, I assume we're gonna be probably closer to 9,000 students, probably corporation-wide this year? Probably somewhere, I mean, if you think about that, that's really impressive. So just to all those that don't really get any acknowledgement during the course of school year, thank you for all you do to make sure that we kick it off with usually a blazing start, no matter it's at the high school level, elementary level, middle school levels, and that it's done in a professional way to where kids are receiving the best education possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. Yeah, I don't have anything specific either. I think graduation was a success. Everybody involved there did a great job, ran extremely smooth, and hopefully all the families enjoyed it. And maybe there's, I had a few sports items to acknowledge, and they're slipping me right now, but you know, we'll get back to that. I'm sure everyone's going to be accommodated soon. So
Pretty much almost everyone in the spring sports, one
they're
section.
extremely
Probably wouldn't be an
successful.
understatement, but I think
Yeah.
almost everybody did.
I think our boys won the conference standings again, and I think girls came in, yeah, well, all sports.
Yes, sorry.
And the girls came in second by not much, yeah, so right there, right down to the wire. So,
Or anything else before we wrap up this evening? If not, a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Hoffman. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries